welcome to our Friday edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. This is our
sorry to
open
cut you off.
Q&A session, where our
I'm here for
goal
the first time.
is to provide a forum for transitioning military veterans, military spouses, and allies to get help while they're on their Salesforce journey, wherever you may be on that Salesforce journey. So if you're working as an admin, or if you just heard about Salesforce and you just found Trailhead yesterday, we are here to help you, or hopefully help you. So we can discuss things like Trailhead modules, challenges that you're facing at work, pretty much anything Salesforce technology related. The only thing that we ask is that we don't cover Salesforce super badges, as that's a violation of the Salesforce policy. All right. So before we jump in, just a few other things that if you would like to stay connected to the community, you can do here. We have make sure you sign up on mtofficehours.com. That way you'll get reminders for all the different Military Trailblazer office hour sessions. So we have a Monday session, Wednesday, Thursday, and this Friday session. So you can learn more about those at mtofficehours.com. Make sure to follow our page and join our group on LinkedIn. And you can also join our Slack workspace and reach out to folks that you might want to reach out to based on what we discussed on the call. So with that, let me stop my share and we'll open it up. Does anybody have any questions or topics that they would like to go through today, or anybody have anything that they learned this week, Salesforce technology-wise, that they'd like to share? If anybody has anything, feel free to use that raise hand icon that's at the bottom of the Zoom window there.
Hey, Bill, it looks like we've got a new person, Danny Mitchell.
Hey, Danny, it looks like you raised your hand too.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can, yeah. So before we get to any kind of question, where are you calling in from and any affiliation to the military?
Yes, I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm out in Atlanta. I'm actually a veteran fellow, so I'm in the High Honor Heroes fellowship program. So
Nice.
I'm in week 8 of 11.
Okay,
And
awesome.
yeah, I wanted to say that this is my first time, and I'm hoping to secure a role within Salesforce. I got my mindset on like a few different positions, but the role that I'm really interested in is solutions engineering.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Any questions or anything that we can help out with?
Yeah, so this may be broad, and I'm not sure if you guys dealt with like military fellows before, but just my advice on securing a position. Should I wait for really what I want? I've been hearing some people say just get in the door, just get in the door, or it's like do you really wait for the position that you want? So what advice would you have as far as just really securing at least either what you want or close to what you want within Salesforce?
Yeah, let me say that back just to make sure I understand the question, then we'll open it up because I think we have a lot of folks that can provide some better feedback than I can. But essentially, you're getting involved in the Salesforce ecosystem. You're going through your Hiring Our Heroes fellowship. So the basic question is, do you take whatever position that you can get while you can get it, or do you hold out for the perfect position that you might be looking for, that you kind of see yourself working towards? So let me pause. Does anybody have any feedback?
Yes, well, I was going to say, I realized because they had me shot on the BDR team, so I don't want that position. So that's taking whatever you can. So I guess what I mean is like the perfect position, or at least something close to it that may align your skill sets, not just any position.
Yeah. Anybody have any thoughts?
Danny, did you say that you're part of the Hire Our Heroes Fellowship program?
Yes.
And I could be wrong, but aren't most of the positions with that somewhat admin related, entry level positions, typically based on the admin certification?
No. So it's from my understanding, they've talked to all of us and they probably put us where they think would be our highest opportunity to get a position. Like with me, they put me with the sales team, starting with the BDRs, because I do have sales experience, but I've been a recruiter and I've done different things. So they set me with that team. Some people are also there. I saw someone in learning development and there have been some AE, so they're putting people all over the place, kind of based off of their experience and interest. Well, I would say location as well, but we pretty much have the entire platter in front of us if there's opportunity, from my understanding.
That's excellent. And I understand that the program has gotten quite competitive. Being in the program and is and being selected to move forward is an accomplishment in and of itself at this point. Is that right?
Well, I wouldn't say the program is competitive. I would say what makes it competitive is us. The advantage that we have is we're within you guys' ecosystem now. So we're able to network with different people. And some people are able to treat it as an intern and get a job immediately, but majority of us are here to network, to find opportunity. So the advantage is us being here. However, the challenges that we're still going to run into is that we're still going to be competing against internal, external candidates. And it's really up to us to be able to either get that perfect referral, that manager recognition, or just like, I guess, finding the right place at the right time as far as getting the position that we really want to separate ourselves from the other candidates.
Yeah. So I was in the initial cohort for hiring our heroes, and the program has changed quite a bit since then. But myself personally, I wouldn't hold out for a perfect position, but I wouldn't necessarily take a position that doesn't align with what your goals are. So if the experience is going to put you in a better position to move into the position that you eventually want to be in, I would certainly, myself personally, I would take any position offered to me and make the best of the opportunity. But each person has got to make a decision based on their own circumstances, obviously.
Yeah. Sandy, I think you had some feedback too.
Yeah, that was going to be my first thing is like, one, it really depends on your situation and stuff like that, on whether or not you should or even could hold out for another job, because there is never a guarantee. But I know that when I went through the program that like Stephanie and Iris were always talking about communication. So my recommendation would be to reach out to them and let them know that while you're enjoying the experience, you're learning and stuff like that, you've also realized that that specific position is not what you're interested in. And two things. One, if that company is big enough that they might have other roles, they might be able to offer you something different. Even if, they might still be able to make you an offer, just maybe not specifically in that role that you're currently in. Or Iris and Stephanie might be able to reach out on your behalf and also basically tell them the same thing, or reach out to another company that might more align with you, and then based on the experience and the feedback that they're getting from your current company, they might be able to help you out that way. So I would take advantage of them as well.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I'm not sure who Ira and Stephanie is, but I know I've been working with Michael Nolan and David Anderson. So, and I appreciate all of that. I think that's the direction I was leaning towards. I just wanted the input, so I appreciate that.
Are those the ones that are in the Hiring Our Heroes, or those with the company you're with?
I'm with Salesforce. So
right. No, I just meant who you're working with the fellowship.
Oh, you talking about as far as Michael Nolan and David Anderson?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was Salesforce.
Okay.
Yeah, I would kind of echo a lot of what was just said, in that if it was between taking a role that was at least within the ecosystem, maybe not the exact thing that I wanted, and no role until I found one, I would probably take the role just to get any experience that I could and continue working. And while you're doing that, you're continuing to take your trailhead badges and certifications, and you're looking and scanning and trying to find, the position that you really want. So that would be my take. I would probably, just given the record low unemployment and the competitiveness of entry-level Salesforce jobs, if I had one available, I would probably take it while I'm continuing my search.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Anybody have any final thoughts on that before we move on? All right. Mickey, it looks like you have a question as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm still doing the same stuff that I'm usually doing, which is cleaning out lead fields, trying to figure out what fields are not useful to the company I'm working with anymore.
Yeah.
So I've installed Field Pro, and I know we've worked on this in the past, but what I'm asking today specifically is there a way to see the last populated date? So if it's something like whatever the name of the field is there a way to see when that field was last populated in Salesforce? Might be too, is that making sense?
I think only if you're already tracking the field history.
What is it?
So for fields, like in objects, you can track their field history. But so if you haven't set that up yet, like it's not going to retrospectively show you those dates, but you can add that in now to say, show me the lead source field, for example, and then it'll create a child object, a lead field history, and then you can query on that to find the date. But that's only going to work going forward.
Got you.
So, Mickey, are you familiar with that field history tracking?
No, it's the
Okay,
first time I've heard it.
let me share my screen here. We'll just take a quick look, just so for those that might not be aware. So I'm logged into one of my Trailhead playgrounds. I'm going to go to Setup, and let's see what we have over here. We'll go to Object Manager, and then let's pull up the lead object. And when I go to leads, when you're in Object Manager, what you'll notice is on the fields and relationships, there's a button here that says Set History Tracking. So when you click on that, well, right now I don't have it turned on, so let me do that. So on any object that you would want to do this, you would click that Enable Lead History, and then you can select which fields you want to actually be part of that history. So for example, I could do title, email, maybe name, and email opt-out. All right, so I'll set those fields that they're going to be part of the field history tracking now. So when I save that, nothing has happened. There's no data collected yet. It just turns that functionality on. So now when I go to my lead object, oh, this is all fancy. Look at this. All right, so if I go to any old lead here, let's see if I get rid of all this stuff here. So basically what I can do is let me edit my page because we don't have the history stuff turned, or that field history list or related list added here. So I'm going to go to dynamic related list single. I'll just go at the top here, and we'll select, hold on here. Why can't I select any fields? Let's try this again. Let's see, use this lead. Okay, I don't know what that is, but let's do it the other way. Let's go to page layouts. Let's go to lead layout, and let's add it the old school way. So related list, I can do
Activity history.
No, it's lead history. There we go. So I'll throw that in there. Save. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll add my related lists over here. I don't know if I think it's over there. Yeah, there you go, lead history. Okay. Dude, what is going on with this? All right, let's try that again. All right, so I just added my related list here. The related lists include our lead history. So once that's back, and I've already forgotten what fields I selected. I think one of them was email. So if I go in here to our details page and I make a change to the email address, so XYZ, and save, you can see that that has now recorded the date time that the change happened, what the original value was, and what the new value is, right?
Okay.
So to Stephen's point, had this been turned on the field that you wanted to see when the last time it was populated, you could run a report on the lead history table filtered by that specific field that you care about, and then the last date when it was populated, right? So that would be one way to do it. Now, assuming that you didn't have lead history turned on, it's maybe something to get you close. I mean, you could run a report on leads where that field is populated. And then you could potentially look at like the last modified date field. But the last modified date field is going to give you the last time that entire record was modified. So it's not going to give you like just that one specific field, but potentially if there's like a ton of old leads that have that field populated, that would at least get you close to see when the lead itself was edited. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Can you run through that one more time? I missed I had our faces covering the screen where you clicked, just real quick, under, you were in the beginning when you turned on your lead history. So
Yeah.
that was under
So
object manager.
Yeah, setup, then object manager, you go to the lead object or whatever object. This can work on pretty much any object. And then under fields and relationships, there is a button over here called set history tracking.
Gotcha.
And when you go in there for the first time, the only thing you'll see on the screen potentially is this unchecked enable lead history link. So then you would check that, and then it'll pop open a view here that's got all the fields. And then you can select whatever fields you want to enable history tracking for.
Gotcha. Cool.
Okay. And
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I mentioned this, but I'll just show you real quick. So if you wanted to report on that information across all of your leads, go to the reports tab and then go to new report. You can select, make sure you're on the all, and then you can type in lead history. So you'll see that table there. We can run that, and now we can, you can filter by specific fields and group by different things, but you'll be able to run this report across all of your leads and see the history for everything.
Cool.
Yeah. So lead history or account history, field history, it's really great for seeing, auditing essentially when people might have changed fields and, the old value, new value. We also use it internally. We're a Salesforce ISV partner. So we sell our app on the App Exchange. So one of the tables that we have is a license table. So we enabled history tracking there, and we turned it on for like the license count. So, as people are adding and taking away licenses for their account, I can go and I can see that history as to like when they've added licenses or when they've taken them away. So it's great for like an audit perspective to see who's changing it, what they changed, but it can also have some real benefits from like an actual data perspective, like just keeping track of what changes are being made at a particular, license like we're doing. So hope that helps.
It does, yeah. We definitely have lead history tracking because I'm an EC, right? So I'm an end user, and I can look to see, was this lead, did I get this lead from my buddy, or did this lead's email change? Like there's definitely some in there, but I'm trying to find the fields that nobody's using, right? It's just for deletion, and so those ones, if it's only allowing 20, those ones probably won't be listed. And they're 0% populated anyway. So that's what kills me too, is it's like, how are we going to find out if it's been, when it was last modified, if nobody's even using it presently? So,
yeah.
But no, I think it was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, let me, I don't know the level of detail that they can get down to, but I'll just throw it out there into the universe that there's stuff that you can do as a Salesforce administrator that you have access to. And then there's like a whole nother level of audit capabilities that Salesforce has. They have like, I forget the name of the product, but if you're like a big enterprise and there was like a major issue and like you needed to audit who saw what thing or when did that person modify this field, like that data exists, I think, but I think it's behind like a paywall. So it's something that's out there that you can always submit a case for, but I doubt, just based on what you've described about this project, that anybody's going to want to spend significant money and engagement with Salesforce for just a cleanup effort versus like a data breach or.
They're just keeping me busy. It's all good.
All right. Any other thoughts on this or any other comments?
Well, we have a product called Ringlead. That it's by Ringlead, all one word, and it's called Field Trip. And it goes through and analyzes your fields and finds empty fields, but because you're not tracking history, it can't tell you specifically when a field was last updated unless you're tracking that history.
Yeah,
it's useful to find out if because we've had consultants come in and they create things and then they get forgotten and they just sit there with minimal usage. So it's just a suggestion.
Cool.
Yeah,
No,
Mickey, you
thank
said you're using which one?
I have Field Trip is what I started with, and then through this group I found out about Field Pro, which is kind of it's the same stuff. It's just a little bit I wouldn't say cleaner look, right? It's like an Excel sheet versus something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Field Trip's very bare bones, but Field Pro's a little bit bougier, but it's kind of the same. It's the same stuff.
Nice. Yeah, just one final comment that you mentioned about like creating stuff and then it doesn't get used and whatever. That's what I refer to as like you get visited by the good idea fairy, where it's like, yeah, let's create this thing, and then it just doesn't get used. And 4 years later, you're like, what the hell were we even doing here? Like the 40 fields that we created and never used. So yeah.
So,
Related, we actually did, we're going through our own org and kind of doing some of that same, like, hey, do we need to keep this anymore? Blah, blah, blah. There's a couple of things that I found. I'm like, well, it doesn't look like this is being used. And my boss is just like, I didn't even know we had that field. Let's keep it and use it. So sometimes
Yep.
this is just helps because it's like you forget that you did build things that you could use and that you might like. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
so they're
All right.
both kind of
Yeah, good.
they're
Yeah.
both kind
Sorry.
of manual, but for custom fields, of course, there's always the where is this field used? Yeah, that's good if you're doing a field audit. And as Salesforce Inspector running queries on that can give you an idea of how a field's being used and whether it's well slated for deletion.
Sure. Yeah, and from what I understand, if we were to try to run something through a deletion and it's involved in a formula or something like that, it'll throw an error, right? It'll block that. Hit or miss.
Yeah, if it's in a formula, it should throw an error. If it's in Apex code, it should throw an error, with the only exception that I'm aware of being if it's referenced as part of like a dynamic query. In other words, it's in there as like a string, like text, not really like referenced as a field. Those you could potentially delete the field and then run into problems later. And then Sandy, you were saying, I'm sorry.
There was one that we encountered with how on a flow with entry criteria, you can now create a formula. If it's in there, it won't throw an error and it won't come up under where is this used.
Yeah, then it becomes this like random ID string when you go back into the flow. It's like 47xy2 underscore exclamation mark.
What are we doing here in 2024? Come on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then if you got like DLRS as well, any field you got reference in there. I got caught out with that one.
Well, DLRS, I think it's a very similar situation to dynamic queries that you might set up in Apex, in that the field names are actually being stored and referenced as strings as opposed to like actual field references. Yeah, so I think that's where it runs into problems.
You gotta look in like VS Code or something.
All right. Any other thoughts on this? So Mickey, I think where you're left is looking at potentially if any of the fields are in field history tracking, that's great. You can run some reports. If not, you can look at the populated percentage. And then, as we said, if it's 0%, nobody has any idea what they are and they could be deleted. It's generally speaking safe to delete them. Some things that you'd want to consider is if you're in an org that has a very large amount of Apex code and potentially they have dynamic queries, you might want to check that just to see. And then, as Stephen mentioned, potentially tools where they're storing field information as text, like DLRS, or I don't know if Rollup Helper does the same thing, but things like that, just to do a quick check. And just to show you this, I know we might be getting a little bit further into the weeds than we might want to, but just to show you, if you were in an org that had a ton of Apex code in it, what you could do is you go to the gear icon, go to developer console, and you can go to debug, or actually not debug, you would go to edit, search in files. And if you search for the API name of the field here, this would look up in all of your Apex triggers, Apex classes for that text, right? So it's just a very quick down and dirty way to just search to see if that field might be referenced in any kind of Apex code. So you can do that here. Yeah. So.
I did not know that, and I've been doing this for 13 years.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very quick way to do it. That doesn't require you to potentially pull all of your stuff within the VS Code. Like VS Code, I mean, if you have all of your code there, it's really great. You can just do a Control-Shift-F, and then you can search across every file, not just classes and triggers, but even page layouts and lightning pages, everything. You can search for that field. But yeah, if you're just looking and you want a quick way just to verify it's not in any kind of code or trigger, that search in files is the way to go. All right. Any other thoughts on this one before we move on? All right. Now, before I just say that we're going to open it back up to any questions, I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but Andrea, I wanted to ask you. You had a question that you had thrown in Slack, and I just want to see it. Were you able to get that figured out, or did you want to talk about it now? Or
not gotten it figured out. I did find a help article that might be pointing in the right direction. So I created a screen flow to gather some responses, many of which were pick lists. And one of them was a multi-select pick list of a variety of subjects. What might you be interested in? And I'm trying to generate a report that counts the number of subjects, like the number of votes per subject. And so far, all I'm getting is a list of the various responses each person gave. So it's like not grouping the way I wanted to. The help article made it look like I need to create a child object with a formula for each value of the multi-select pick list.
All right,
Yes.
let me just ask a few clarifying questions, and then we could potentially open this up. So, if I understand what you're trying to do, you have an object with a multi-select pick list, and you're exposing this to your users to a screen flow, so they can go through. They're answering a bunch of questions. They're checking off 4 or 5 different subjects that are part of that multi-select pick list. And then they save it and they move on with the day. But you're in the position now where a bunch of people have submitted that screen flow. You want to be able to report on the data. Now, this is the part where I didn't fully understand. Do you need to report on it in such a way that says, like, how many did they select? Or do you need to get down to like grouping by, this is the ones that submitted for geography and this is the number that's submitted for this thing? So is it just the count you're looking for? Or is it you need to get
So
details like
the second description. Yeah. So I need to know which subjects are the most voted upon so that we can arrange speakers for those topics.
how many subjects do you have?
It's a lot. So
Okay, that's I think that's enough of an answer that I was looking for. So
yeah, like more than 15.
oh, well, 15 is not a lot. I guess maybe a
Okay.
lot is relative, right? So if you were telling me that there was, let's just say 20, let's throw that number out there, and you don't add a lot, like this is a pretty concrete list that doesn't change that often. One suggestion I was going to make was, well, you have your multi-select pick list. You could create a formula field that basically said, call it like, did they select geography? And the formula would basically say, was that one of the selected values in the multi-select pick list? If so, it's true, right? So then you'd be able to run your report, and group by did they select geography, and you'd be able to see that. So that could be a way. Just create a formula field for each subject. It's an ugly way, but it could be done. Now, before I go to further down the spectrum of like obscure solutions and in the weed type stuff, anybody have any other solutions that we could potentially do for this? Multi-select pick list, trying to get to the data where you can report on it for each individual value.
How many records are there?
I want to say 15.
15 subjects? or
15 records, I
15
just do it
submissions?
manually.
So
It's 15 subjects, but the number of people that have submitted the screen flow, I think, is what we're.
right, so we have 18 companies that we service, and out of those 18, 3 didn't really respond. But this is the multi-select pick list is one question out of over 60 that I need to create a dashboard for. So I just started with the multi-select one because that was probably the most challenging.
Well, Andrea, let me ask you a question. So I wonder then if you're trying to get this onto a dashboard, I almost wonder if could you, in theory, create a report where if the basically, how can I explain this? I guess maybe the filtering of the report would say you would have a geography report, and you would do a filter on the multi-select pick list to say if that contained geography, show that data, and then use that report as the basis for like a gauge element or a number element on your dashboard. So you're not technically you're not changing the data or creating formula fields. You're just basically filtering the report to only show the records that they selected that subject, and then using that to display the widget on the dashboard.
Okay.
The downside to that is that I think there's a limit on the number of widgets you can put on a dashboard. So if you have 15 things you're trying to report on, I think that gets pretty close to the number of little widgets that you can add to a dashboard. I forget what the number is these days, but it's not.
I can even do most. The reason we're trying to keep it in Salesforce and Salesforce reports, so we can share the dashboard to our Experience Cloud.
Okay.
Yes. So, one of the internal suggestions was to export everything to Excel, do all the data crunching that way. I'm just not sure how it would translate back into Salesforce to be placed on the Experience Cloud.
Right. Now I see if Stephen, you came off mute. So before I jump in, you have something?
I did. Sorry, I was kind of distracted at the start, so I missed a little bit. But is the goal, right? So you've got a multi-select pick list, and then if people pick a few options, you're trying to report, like these 10 companies all picked this subject, and you're wanting individual numbers on that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've done a similar thing for a client. So I keep the multi-select pick list on the page, and then I basically create a related child object, and then with Flow, I create a new record for each value in the pick list. And then whenever that field is changed, then I delete all the existing records and recreate everything again. So if they select 5 values, I'm going to have 5 child records. And then each child record is just individually named on that. And then so it's like you've got a pick list now.
Okay. That is kind of similar to what a very brief help article I found said.
Yeah. I think it's the typical way.
Okay.
To handle it. Yeah. It does get a little bit kind of convoluted, but yeah, it can become pretty scalable if you set it up right. So you shouldn't have to change any values, because you can just put the multi-select pick list value as the name of the record.
Okay.
So you can split like that. Yeah.
So Stephen, let me say that back to you. So we have, let's just say that we have a multi-select pick list on the lead object, for example, that contains 3 different options. So what the solution would do is you would create another object called option selected for lead, or whatever you call the thing, right? And all it would have would be a name field. So then the theory would be is you would set up a record triggered flow on the lead where you check to see if that field has changed, or if a value selected, if it's a new record, whatever it is. And then in the flow, you would basically delete any existing option records that existed for that lead.
Yeah.
And then for each one of them, you check, is this one checked? Yes, then create a record. And then is that one checked? Yes, then create a record. So the end result is if you had selected 2 options, when you look at that related list, you would have 2 records.
Correct. Yeah. I'll try bring up the flow in a sandbox org for a client. yeah, I don't want to bring up the production one, but yeah, I'll try to demo it if you give me like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Try and get it in. Yeah.
Andrea, what do you think? Is that think that might be doable for this, or
I think so. Yeah.
now I
I'm
think
like
I'm
imagining in my head, so
yeah. Well, let's see if Stephen can find that, and if not, and if we don't have any other questions, I'm more than happy to try to take a quick stab at that, and then we can share the recording for you. Now, one thing I did want to glance over it, but I think maybe it was Jeff. I'm not sure, but somebody had said like you might want to just do it manually, right? That in some cases that's maybe not a bad idea. And the reason why I say that is there's many times in the history of my Salesforce work where I had to get this thing done, and I was like, well, I mean, why just do it manually when like why spend the 10 minutes it's going to take to do it manually when I can spend 4 hours to automate this thing that I'm never going to use again, right? So there is something to be said about thinking through that, like when you're building stuff, like are we going to be using this all the time, or is this a one-time effort? And if it's a one-time effort, maybe Salesforce isn't the right tool to get you to the solution. But if this is something that you want to be scalable, just work without having to manually touch it all the time, then yeah, definitely I would suggest automating it. But always good to kind of think through that, like, should I really be building this thing right now? So
yeah.
I spent a lot of hours just building things that probably didn't need to be built. All right, let's see. Anybody have any other thoughts before we move on? And like I said, if we run out of questions, I'm happy to try to do this one on the fly. All right, let's see. Anybody have any other questions or topics that they would like to go through?
Has anyone seen the difference between the Sales Cloud certification? So I think it was the 17th. They updated it, and so I had been working on the trail mix, and I went from 79% completed to 39.
Wow. So they added a lot.
No, they changed it drastically. So it used to have like a bunch of different topics, and now it's only got like 5, and they increased some of the percentages of, like, I think one is over 30%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need to get on the certification track again, but just can't get into it right now.
Well, and I
What?
got the free class through the Salesforce Military, but I did that back in May, and now like I wonder if any of the stuff that I learned is relevant anymore.
Yeah, that might be one you just have to schedule the test and just see for yourself,
Yeah.
Do you know why they changed it? What the basis of the change was?
No, I just happened to be looking at it a week prior, and at the very top of, like the credentialing, the exam stuff, I saw that they had a link to the new version or the new criteria, and I'm like, well, I guess I might as well just pause and not do that this week because if I do the whole take it as a practice exam, I would have to reschedule like right away in order to get that same one. So I'm like, eh. But I did do the side-by-side comparison to see what was different, at least in the topics. But I mean, it was right around the release time, so that's probably part of it too.
All right, I think I'm good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, see my Salesforce screen. Okay.
It's coming up for me. It says you started sharing. There you go. Now I can see it.
Okay. Yeah. So this client, basically the use case was for the loss to competitor reason. So they wanted a multi-select pick list here.
Okay.
If there's multiple different reasons, and then like for the object, I don't have a related list at all, or like a tab or anything, because no one really needs to see it, just for the report. But then to the flow, I'll just show that object real quick as well. So pretty basic object. I just named it same as the multi-select pick list value. So the object is called loss to competitor. If it loads.
Right.
Maybe
steam
not.
coming out of the Salesforce data center right now.
Maybe get rid of my camera, see if that helps. Okay, anyway, we'll come back to the, you know, you try and have everything preloaded, you try and do the right thing, and then you get hit like this.
Usually at this point, that's when I pull up trust.salesforce.com to see if there's anything going on.
See what's happening, yeah.
Let's see. Doesn't look like anything going on.
Okay, well, yeah, so the object, I set up as a master detail because it shouldn't exist without a parent. It's easier to clean it up when needed. And then, yeah, so for this one, actually I did auto number, and then for the reason, like the pick list has all the values in the multi-select pick list. So this is a little bit more maintenance, but if your subjects aren't changing, like this should be fine. And this client was saying that the loss to reason list shouldn't change through that. And then hopefully now we can look at the flow.
And while your flow is loading, I would say the pick list option I like, just because from a reporting perspective, it's a little bit nicer of a user experience if you want to be able to
Yeah,
see
we
the
can just
options.
click
Yeah.
through. Yeah, true. So yeah, so I'm just going through. So first bit, checking that it's like what the loss reason is, and then coming through. And then so the next bit is finding any existing loss to competitor records. And so if they were found, then I delete all of them based on the change. And then after that, so then check if it does have some values. And then so if it does have values, then assign everything to different variables, add it all to a collection, and then I create a new record for each one. So like in the back end, so what this looks like is, you know, for that client, so the reason they've got purchase versus lease, brand, course, outfield mapping. So it's 4 different values here. And then, so if we, you know, got rid of a couple there, save this. And then rerun the query. This is laggy, but hopefully it should just be the 2 records showing up now. And then, yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, that works for their reporting needs, just much simpler as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of like based off the article, Andrea, but if you want to jump on a call later or look at this in more detail, I can do that with you.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Hey, just 2 things I just want to point out based on that solution too. Just to reiterate again, that field that you create on that child object, making that a pick list is nice, because from the reports, when you want to like filter the report to just show one particular value, if you created the field as a text field, you have to type in the value, right? So a user, they might not know what available values there are. So, you know, it's kind of clunky there. Make it a pick list. When they create the filter, they'll have the pick list drop down where they can actually select the values. So it's much cleaner from a user perspective if they, you know, to work with that data. The second thing is, you know, I think best practice, we all agree, is when you're building complex flows that do a bunch, you know, stuff, doing that in the sandbox is always great. But I also know the reality that a lot of people work directly in production when they're doing this. So something to keep in mind, anytime that you have that delete element there, where you're going to delete all the records, you know, for that parent, just be very careful and make sure that you put your filter criteria appropriately. So you're deleting just the records for that opportunity that's in focus, or that lead that's in focus, and not all the data. Potentially try to delete everything. So just be very careful with the deletes and your updates to make sure that they're properly scoped before you blow up production. And as with most things, I say this because at some point I tripped myself up and did horrible things. So yeah. Stephen, were you speaking right now?
I am speaking, sorry.
There you go.
Having a bad day. Yeah, so this is the report I built out for them, where then, yeah, it's like easy to split on the pick list values as well. So it's just like the report type with the opportunities with that chart object, which I called lost to competitors. So you could do something similar, whatever your parent is, and then your child subject object. And then you can get those values, and I can't remember what else I split it on. Oh yeah, by region, so North America or Europe, so that they can then tell who's having, yeah, there's different values. So it's possible with a bit of magic in the back end.
That
Nice.
is exactly what kind of report I'm looking for. So thanks.
Awesome. Steve, thank you very much for sharing that. That's awesome. Any other questions or anything that anyone would like to walk through with this particular use case? All right. Well, it looks like we have about, what, 6 minutes left. Any other topics or questions that anyone would like to walk through? Anybody have any good things they learned this week that they want to share? No?
Anybody have any experience with the Omni Studio? No,
I was thinking along the same lines. What are you doing with Omni Studio?
nothing. I was just looking into it, but it looks like it's only available for the industry clouds. So, but I was looking at their certification and the trailhead for that. It's literally 24 of like the 27 hours is reading the Salesforce help documentation. I'm like, it's got to be like the worst trailhead mix ever.
Yeah.
No,
I haven't. Oh, good, Jeff. Sorry.
I was going to say, when we were establishing a new vertical at MST, where I was previously, they had more than half the company go and get the Omni Studio certification, and most people had. I didn't get it myself, but most people didn't find it to be particularly difficult. So, and Salesforce industry seems to be becoming more and more pervasive in the ecosystem. So it's definitely something I want to learn more about.
I mean, it seems interesting, but yeah, trying to find some. I think one of my big pet peeves is when I'm trying to learn something new about Salesforce is trying to, one, it's always like, okay, where is it included? Like one of the first questions I had is, can you use it anywhere else? But there's no real straight answer on that one. So I got stuck, doing a little help chat box thing on Salesforce, and they always push you to talk to an AE. And I'm like, it is literally a simple yes, no question. Can I use this outside of this? And they're just like, well, it could depend. So you really should talk to the AE. And I'm like, fine.
Are you at a partner? So you go through the partner portal and look at like the public sector solutions kind of stuff. A lot of that kind of crosses over.
Well, interestingly, I actually have a Slack connection with the AE of one of our clients. And so he actually reached out to me and said, hey, can we reschedule that meeting? I said, well, since you've asked, I don't think we need one. Here's my simple question.
Yeah. From my perspective, I would love to learn Omni Studio, but there's just so many things that I want to learn. And one of the first criteria that I put there is what number of my potential clients would be able to use this technology. Exactly to your point, like who is actually able to access it, who can use it, and then is it behind the paywall that people are going to pay extra money for to be able to leverage? And if it is, there's just other things that I could probably focus my time on that's going to give me a better return than some of the more, dare I say, obscure parts of the platform that not a lot of folks work with. Now, if I was somebody trying to like work as a consultant, I could see being really good at obscure parts of the platform there's probably some dollar signs that come with that, but you know, yeah.
Come to us if you need some help with the public sector.
All right, let's see. Anthony, I saw you raise your hand briefly. Question that we can answer within a minute and a half. What do you think?
No question, just wanted to say that we started doing Salesforce to take over Power Schools. So Power Schools has a whole front end for charter schools, and it costs $27,000, but with Salesforce you can get it for 12. So there's just a really good use case to use Salesforce for the front end and to take out Power Schools, and it's a good opportunity for consultants looking for different avenues.
Nice.
Just something
Awesome.
I learned this week that you said you learn anything, so that's my learning.
Awesome.
So silly question, what is Power School?
Power Schools at least in Michigan is where a lot of public schools use to do their electronic record keeping, and then it's what they use to, if you're a charter school, apply for applications. Universities use it a lot too. So how do they apply for application? They use this Power Schools front end, and then they use it for a lot of the actual grades and communication with parents and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sandy, we use it at our house as a conversation starter, so I can hear the stories as to why my kids are missing assignments at school. So we can see like their grades, what assignments they have, are they late, like all that kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
yeah. All right, cool. Well, I think we're just about out of time. And just as a quick announcement, we are not going to be having office hours next week. I know the 4th, I think, is on a Thursday, but I know a lot of people are out traveling and doing their own stuff on Friday. So I think we're going to take a week off, and then we'll reconvene the week after. But as always, if anybody has any questions or needs help with anything or is stuck, feel free to reach out in Slack. And if we ever need to schedule, one-on-ones, I know the suggestion was thrown out there earlier, but if you really need help with something, ask on the Slack channel, and folks are always willing to help out. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope you all have a great holiday next week, and we'll catch up the week after. So thanks all.
Hey.